This week on The Grind, Bill picks up his fancy new Excel, then heads to North Dakota to learn some new waters and eat a slice of humble pie.
I yearn for a place to call my own. I'm going home. Say what you will, I'll be better for it still. I've been wondering what you're doing with your time, just to get you off my mind. I'm in the grind.
The Grind Waterfowl TV is brought to you by Dakota Decoy, premium gunning decoys for demanding hunters. Lucky Duck, masters of deception. Rio, official ammunition of The Grind. Share the experience. Mud Buddy, the king of mud motors. Excel, the boat to own. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the world's most accessible online retriever training program. High Mountain Seasonings, handcrafted jerky, seasonings, and meat processing tools. Sitka Gear, turning clothing into gear. Alps Outdoors, exceed your expectations. Benelli, simply perfect. And these fine sponsors. This segment is brought to you by Mud Buddy and Excel Boats.
Well, we are headed to Mountain View, Arkansas to meet up with Mud Buddy and Excel boys, pick up our new Excel boat and Mud Buddy motor. Meeting J. Paul Jackson down here. Pretty excited to see the new boat, tour the factory, meet up with DJ from Excel, get a little plant tour, hook on, take that baby home and kill some ducks out of it.
The destination is on your left. Excel boat.
This is our second year with Mud Buddy Excel, and the quality, the build, I mean, we're so excited to be with these guys. I've been running the boat myself since 2013, and they're built like tanks and reliable.
Yeah.
And we're pleased to be with you guys. So.
I mean, we love that fact. I mean, we take great pride in the fact that we think we've got not only the most durable, but also one of the best values on the water. And you guys put them to the test for us, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're tough.
Yep.
So
Well,
let's do a tour.
Yeah, let me tell you, you're here to pick up your boat.
Yep.
This is the way it works in the factory. When we have a boat, I'm just going to take you through from start to finish right quick. The orders come in, we start the build process. We're going to take you back through the factory there. Let's put our safety glasses on and I'll walk you through. After the order comes, it goes out to the floor and we'll show you how it starts.
Let's do it.
After you, brother. Get this door. All right, so everything starts right here. This is where the action begins. We start out with a roll of aluminum here, and what's really, really cool about this process is we get this raw aluminum. It comes coiled up in these rolls. It comes in as a raw material like that, but by the time we finish this little tour, we're gonna show you how that becomes a completely finished product. And to me, I love that about our process because it's like magic the way we transform it. It comes in on these coils here and it goes through our decoiler here. And as you can see, this decoiler's job is to just totally flatten it out. We don't want any waves in it whatsoever. After it goes through the decoiler, the next step is cut. We have a computer-driven plasma cutter here, so we get really, really precise cuts. Helps us with our quality control. This is about the only thing that we do that's really super automated. Okay. All of the other cutting and welding is pretty much done by hand, but every boat, the hull starts right here being cut out on the plasma cutter. After it's cut, before it gets here, the raw material cut comes back over here.
This segment is brought to you by Rio Ammunition.
Now, the next step in our process is bend. We have 3 big press brakes here. We call this a Big Mama. And the Big Mama press brake here Again, it's computerized, everything's very, very tight tolerances. Those two pieces of the hull over there, they came off of the cutter and they went here to the bender, and the bender formed them in the way that we want them. We also have a medium-sized bender over here where you can see they're working on parts, and you see a couple of parts coming off of the smaller bender over here. And now we're here starting at our welding stations, and they begin right here. This is a parts welding station. You can see these guys are taking these smaller parts here, and they're forming them into the smaller parts on the boat. These guys are working on the parts. Then let's move that way. We'll take a look at the jigs. Now, these are the big welding stations. You ask, do we make different boats at the same time? Yes, and in order to be efficient, this is the way we're able to do that. These are jigs, and you will see we have multiple jigs. So the jigs are fairly boat specific. Right there, we've got, that's a bay boat right there, and you can see the metal underneath there on the jig. It's all at the right angle, so it fits right in there. So this is weld. After our boats go through the weld process, and you can see it's pretty intensive along the way, they go back to the sand and the wash, and we'll head that direction. I'll tell you, let's go around this way. Just on the other side of that curtain there, we had all of our welding jigs, our weld stations. After everything is welded together into what's getting a lot closer to the finished product, it comes first to John here, our sand man in the sanding department, and then on to the wash station. So the next step along the way is actually sand and wash in that order. Now we're coming back here to Javier and Maria. This is the foaming station. And these guys, they may do a little bit of final sanding, grinding on it, getting it down to tolerances. But back here, through here and over here, you see a little foam sprayed on the wall. This is where, after it finishes the final touches of welding and wash and sand, they're gonna bring this boat over here and they're gonna fill it full of foam for flotation. And we're here in the paint booth, guys, and as you can see, it's a state-of-the-art paint booth. You hear the exhaust fans running, so there's no dust in here whatsoever. I think it's really cool the way we use our monorail. We bring these boats into the paint booth on the rail.
Is this the same rail that we saw out here?
This is the same rail. It goes in a circle all the way around. From the time we take this boat off of the jigs and put it on the rail, it pretty much stays on it all the way through sand, wash, foaming, prep, paint prep, and then here in the paint booth. Yeah, this is a great example of that, as a matter of fact. And you can see this goes all the way down to the bottom. It comes out of the paint booth and we go to one of the very last steps. We come over to rigging or over to the finish area. So along this wall, these are our finish stations. And everybody's gone right now, looks like on a lunch break. When these guys come back, you'll see people crawling all over these holes. And these holes have been painted. When they come out, this is where we start adding everything to the hull. Charlie is one of our quality control guys, and he actually is responsible for one of the very last steps along the way. When these boats come to rigging or finish, they come in just as the hull with the parts that are welded in place. Everything that's not welded in this boat, this is where it goes in. And when this boat is ready to go, that order sheet that came through the doors, this is what I want. Charlie or one of the guys will take that checklist and they will go through this boat literally from stem to stern and make sure that everything is exactly as it's supposed to be.
All right, we're here in Mountain View at Excel, Mud Buddy, basically Excel here though.
Excel boats, yep.
Excel boats with J. Paul Jackson from Mud Buddy Excel. And we are picking up the 2018 grind boat. She's a beauty. So we want to get this thing in the water. Well, we're going to kill some ducks.
Hey man, everything's checked out.
He made a mistake earlier. He invited me to come duck hunt with him this year. I said, be careful what you ask for.
Hey, I got a great place in Marble, Arkansas. We would love to have you and the other guys from the Grind Waterfowl TV. And on behalf of all of us Excel Boats too, thank you for coming to Mountain View today, and thanks for
We're so pleased to be with you guys. I mean, quality company, quality people. Excel, Mud Buddy, you can't beat them.
Good partnership. Come on, let's get the paperwork done on this guy.
Josh here, and this is a Cornerstone Gundog Academy training tip. And so today what I want to talk about is delivery to hand and setting your dog up for success as it relates to that. So number one, when you're out there and your dog's pretty new to retrieving and stuff, you know, they might grab the bumper, or they might grab whatever you're throwing them and run around a little bit. So let's talk about how to set them up for success. Number one is you can get a nice outdoor area, whether maybe in between a building or maybe a nice little hedgerow or anything that kind of helps guide your dog back to you. And get a place where it makes it easy for your dog to win by returning back to you. Number two is a lot of mistakes happen is when the dog comes in to deliver, you reach down at the dog from overhand, and that'll cause the dog to maybe turn their head. But if you reach from up under, the dog will put it right in your hand. And that's going to be 2 key tips on helping with delivery to hand.
This segment is brought to you by Dakota Decoy.
Well, the 2018-19 season, early 19 season, as everyone remembers, was a funny season. Temperatures messed everyone up again. Birds were in a weird migration pattern. And we threw a little impromptu trip up to North Dakota on the Missouri River. It worked out really well, except the birds were in a funky pattern up there as well. Well, we are on the Missouri River in North Dakota, and we were supposed to go to southeast Missouri this week and hunt with Shane Garner at SEMO Outfitters, and he called me and said they've got plenty of birds, but they'd gone nocturnal on them, and there was no weather coming for them. So we took a little side trip up to North Dakota, and right now we're going to launch the boats on the Missouri River here, and there's a pile of honkers on this river. We're gonna go out and find the honkers, try and find a sandbar in between 2 wads of geese, get ready for a hunt sometime tomorrow. We're gonna get this scouting done, then we're gonna pull off, and Max has a field lined up for us to do a honker hunt this afternoon. So we've been running this Excel 1854 with their new 5,000 motor that Glade at Backwater Performance has souped up for us, and we're churning 50-some horsepower. And it's a heck of a rig, good river rig. They're best in the mud, but we've been running it in the sand on the Missouri River too. And basically, if you see water, you can go. So it's been pretty cool, fun rig.
We're in a different Dakota, but it's still the same old Missouri River, unforgiving to all. The river has earned a respect from Bill that was learned spending countless days running these waters.
We got honkers.
Despite the river's restlessness, it's a treat watching that extra glimmer of anticipation every time Bill brings the boat out on Big Muddy.
Well, we are on our first morning of the hunt here on the Missouri River, North Dakota. And yesterday we spent scouting. We had an afternoon hunt lined up that didn't pan out. That's one of the pluses and minuses of North Dakota. We had permission on the field, but it's a no-post state, so if it's not posted, it's awesome for hunters because they can go in and hunt it, and we got beat to the field. So we just regrouped, got ready for this morning. We're going out on this sandbar, and there are a few birds moving already, which we're kind of glad to see. Yesterday we didn't see much moving in the morning, but there's birds in the air. We think we've got a pretty hot little spot. It's cold, it's in the teens. We're pretty anxious to get out there on the water. Well, we're anxious to go hunting. It's gonna be cold out on that water, but we're gonna get rolling here. There's a reason not many of us hunt water. It's a lot harder. It just takes a lot of gear, boats, this time of year. It's a lot of work. So we got 2 boats, and it's gonna take about 3 boat loads. So we're getting ready. It's cold. We're gonna have some fun shooting honkers on the Missouri River.
This segment is brought to you by Lucky Duck Premium Decoys.
So as we're putting the boats in, we noticed probably, 2 bunches of 25, maybe 30 geese just locked up and came into this little backwater. We came up in here and probably kicked 200-300 mallards out of here too. So we're gonna set the X-blind and the cattails here and just make a big black mass of Canada decoys, and we'll put our floaters up above here, and I think it's gonna work. We will find out shortly. So we decided to set up there. We had a great little location, kicked a pile of birds out of there, set up the X-blinds, and got the honker floaters out, a bunch of full bodies. We put some Lucky HDs out. We knew we couldn't shoot ducks, but we wanted to look at ducks. So, and that's kind of what we did. We looked at ducks that day. We did have a couple little bunches come give us a work
and I think we shot 3 out of 2 goes there. But it was fun. It was cold. We got out on the Missouri River, which we really wanted to do when we went on this trip. Day 2, North Dakota, we got up after getting our rear ends kicked on the river, and we decided to do a field hunt. And Austin Lemieux, Dakota staffer, had found this field that was loaded with honkers. And it was there that night, I believe it got, maybe -5, -6. It was cold. And we knew we might be in for trouble because when you get those kind of temps, the birds typically wait until the warmest time of the next day to go feed. They'll just sit wherever they're on the roost, conserve their energy, and then get up and go. Well, in North Dakota, during the week, goose season closes at 2 p.m. So you can hunt from half hour before sunrise till 2 p.m. Well, we got all set up. We had a huge spread of decoys out. We had the X-blinds perfectly covered, great hide, and we were all cold, and we sat and wait. We could hear the geese. We weren't too far from the river. We could hear them on the roost, but as the clock was ticking, we knew we were probably in trouble. We actually went and looked at the roost, could see the geese out there. Most of them were still sleeping. They weren't going anywhere. So we stuck it out till 2. We did not see one bird in the air. So after we picked up the decoys, we went scouting, we looked for fields, we looked for birds in fields, and decided to go back out onto the river. So day 3, we did the same thing. We loaded up the boats, and we decided to go downriver. And we knew we were making a long run down. I looked at a second 6-gallon fuel tank and just left it behind. So I've got probably 5.5 gallons of fuel in the Mud Buddy XL, and we took off downriver. And we weren't quite sure how far we were gonna go, but we went about 12 or 13 miles down, and we found this huge mass of birds. So we decided to go kick those ducks up, see where they're at, and then we sat up in between the 2 masses of ducks. We found a cool little spot on a sandbar. I had to take the XL and break out a bunch of ice. We got all set up, and honestly, our spirits were low. The birds had been funky. It was really cold. They were going out to feed late. Dappers were down a little bit, and all of a sudden we saw a little bunch of ducks. And we got on with the calls, and they bombed into us. Oh, didn't see those. Did he? It's a her. The decoys weren't quite right when we got all said and done with the first setup, but my spirits were low, so I thought, well, this will work just fine. And then this bunch of ducks came in. We didn't shoot because the ones that came in were all hens, but boy, that put a little kick in my step. I jumped out of the blind and went and got the decoys the way I knew they should be. We're questioning our setup. I think when we get some more birds moving, they're gonna do it. We might have to move these goose decoys right down in front of the blind. They always end up in the goose decoys. We had a little bit of a wind change from when we first set up, and we just had our first little bunch of ducks come in. And we usually put the geese upwind of us, and they slide right by the ducks into the geese. Well, the wind changed, so the geese were really at the bottom of the wind, or the top of the wind, but the bottom side of our hunting setup. And the first bunch ate the geese up like they always do. So we just took a little time to move these decoys around. Hopefully they should now slide up into this little gap. We'll see. They're ducks. Of course, that's the only bunch of ducks we saw. God, the way that first bunch did it, shouldn't have moved the decoys. But just the one little bunch of ducks dumped in, and we decided to cut our losses, pick up, and make the big boat ride back upriver. We're pretty hard on the boat, actually. We had a little motor trouble. Not motor trouble, but I might have bit off more than I could chew breaking ice up with the boat. That thing started vibrating, and it was unbelievable. And then Max and Sean and Tom caught up with me, and I was kind of looking at the motor like, what happened? Just happened to this thing? And Sean started giggling a little bit, and he said, look at your prop.
Bill, you only got 2 blades. Broke the blade off.
And I had, we were running the 3-blade Mud Buddy prop, and I had broke one of the blades off, or I'd sheared it off in the ice, and then making the run up the river, it went all the way off. And so the boys went ahead and went back to the boat ramp, and I idled up. I think it took me maybe another hour. But we got back, decided to go regroup again. Day 4, we decided to do kind of a river hunt in the morning, and then Austin had found a field, oh geez, I don't know how many, 20, 30,000 honkers feeding in it. And they hadn't been hitting the field till late afternoon, 3 to 4 o'clock. And we get to the field about 1 o'clock to set up, get ready for them, and there's probably 10,000 honkers in the field already. It was just that kind of trip. I mean, those birds had not been going out early at all. It was still cold, and for some reason that day something triggered them and they went out and were in the field when we got there. So we kicked them out of the field, gently kicked them out of the field, which sometimes works, and they did, they left. We got all set up. We had a few geese come in. First little bunch came in and we thought, oh, here we go. We're on to something special.
Good shot, guys. Max. Yes! We're back. We thought we'd turned into the worst hunters in America. But we are finally got some geese that are actually going to play with us, it looks like. So.
And then it got tougher after that. We killed a few geese, but not quite what we'd expect. But the whole trip, all in all, was just, I mean, it was fun. We got to see the river at North Dakota. When this South Dakota boy retires, he might end up in North Dakota because it's beautiful country. The river up there is undescribable. It's clean, clear water. Birds, I've never seen birds in one area like we saw on that North Dakota trip. They just weren't cooperating. So scenery is beautiful. We had 4 great days of hunting. We had a lot of fun. Had some issues. We got through them, and it was a typical hunting trip.
Next week on The Grind, Ricky and his pals gamble on one squall to break stale birds in warm weather.